This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. I don't have to tell you this, life is not always easy. There's always going to be challenges there. And sometimes getting through those challenges is even more of a challenge when you're dealing with anxiety and depression and many other things that come up in our lives, even with our emotions. We're going to talk about that today and how therapy and counseling can be the way to help you pilot through. And that's what she does and does it very beautifully as well. Barbara Lanz joins us on the program today. How are you doing?
Hey, hello there. I'm good. How are you doing? I'm excited to be here.
Likewise. And I hear it from so many people in my circle challenged by, be it anxiety, which I don't know. I don't know if it's a product of COVID, but it just seems, I mean, here we are almost 6 years out, that it has accelerated in terms of number of cases since COVID. I don't know if there's a connection, but are you seeing that in your practice? More people are dealing with anxiety and also depression?
Absolutely. COVID was a stressor for everybody in every way. And most of us just didn't have any tools to navigate that with. So we learn things growing up and we learn things in life. And sometimes when we're thrown a curveball, it's not enough. So I think COVID was a traumatic event for many, many people. And anxiety is fear at its core. And COVID gave us a lot of things to fear.
Mm. When we talk about the core, fear, is that really what's challenging us in many or most ways? It's fear of something. And then let's go even one step before that. Safe. You just want to feel safe no matter what the situation is. And then fear comes in, and then anxiety and depression follow it.
Yes, that's part of it. Part of it is what you learn, how you learn to cope in life. Do you have resources? Do you have support? Are you alone? There's a lot of lonely, isolated people that don't. Who do you call? They don't have a lot of friends. They don't have people to call. If you grew up in an environment that wasn't community oriented, you don't know how to fit into a community. So how do you find your tribe, so to speak? Because if you have, some way to connect with people, that's going to help you get through things.
Dare I say, and this comes from the CDC, their numbers, epidemic of isolation and even potentially loneliness going on right now in our country. And you might not even think it. And here's the part that blows my mind. The demographic with the highest level, as I understand it, from the CDC, is men 25 to 34. Now, you would think you're hanging with your buds, go get a beer, we'll go play basketball, whatever. You wouldn't think that, but that's what's going on now. And that's just one cell. There's so many other demographics that are dealing with that isolation and don't really know who to turn to.
Okay. That age man is dealing with starting their life career. Maybe they have a partner, maybe they don't. And one of the most difficult things is finding that person that you want to stay with. Where do you learn the skills? There's nowhere in high school and there's nowhere in college, not till I got to my master's program, did I learn about relationships. So if you don't have relationship skills, there's a ton of rejection in relationships. And if you don't know how to navigate that and realize it's not your fault, everything that happens, we tend to take on everything that happens as our fault. But I think men have the stress of trying to figure out how to provide for a family. And I think in today's age, they might not want to start a family until they know that. That would be one thing.
For sure. And that the word baggage, you bring a baggage into the relationship. It's not necessarily baggage from other relationships. Use that word baggage. It could go back to your childhood, things that you experienced, how you try to navigate life, call them trauma, childhood traumas. That's all part of it too, right?
Right. There's a well, there's not a child on the face of the earth that I know of that doesn't have difficulty surviving. Now, no, you can't give a child every single thing and make their life perfect, because then you create the narcissist or some other personality disorder. So children do have difficulties, but they do need a lot more support than I think we ever give them.
Mm,
Some traumas, a trauma is basically the inability to cope, to you don't have resources to deal with what's coming at you. So that describes every child that I know. So it's not necessarily baggage, but your nervous system is your subconscious mind. Every experience you've ever had is in your body. And so those get triggered. Of course, they're going to get triggered, and you have unfinished business. You have the feeling stored on one side of the brain and the event on the other side of the brain. So you have a separation in the experience. Out of that comes anxiety and depression and bipolar and all
mm,
kind of labels we call them, which are good because we need a map to work with the labels. But a lot of what I see started with a traumatic event somewhere in their life.
mm. And it could be even, call them big T traumas, which could be major car accident, passing of a, very close relative, or the little T trauma where you got bullied or somebody said something and now you held that in, made an impression on you, and now you're piloting as an adult later in life with that in the back of your mind.
Well, it's in your body. So when you find an experience and you start reacting and you don't intend to react that way, then people either tend to pull back and isolate more, or they tend to be offended and want to know, why did they do that? It's behavior that's unexplainable. We have lots of parts of us. I do a lot with internal family systems,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of parts to that. We all have a critical voice. We criticize ourselves. We all have a somewhere in life there's shame, and if that kicks in, then that throws us another direction.
Those are the monkeys, as they say, that are
Yeah,
talking in your head, the monkey chatter. um,
yeah.
and again, it comes from those, I would imagine those traumas. um, and not throwing any parents under the bus or anything like that, because every child is different. You could be the most attentive parent, uh, but maybe your child's needs weren't met, and you didn't even realize it because that's on the child at that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of parent people that won't get help because they know they have childhood trauma, but they love their parents and they're not going to go in because they're not blaming their parents. And it's not about blaming the parents at all. Parents, very few parents, clients that I've ever seen had parents that were just outright mean on purpose. And
Hmm.
that also probably came out of their own childhood. That's the way things were done. But it's not about blaming the parents. It's not about blaming anybody. It's about what you needed to do to survive. And if you were wounded or if you were harmed by people that love you, your nervous system learned that people that love me hurt me. And so you can unconsciously set yourself up to be hurt in relationships, and you try to figure out, how did I do that one? And then you do it again. How did I do that? And so it's a repeating pattern until your nervous system learns how to get out of that one. Those are
Mm.
that nervous system, that was research done back in 19, I think 47. Nerves that fire together are wired together. So somebody that loves me hurts me. If you grew up with that, you're going to have to watch that you don't repeat that.
Well, how many times do you hear somebody say, like, pick a woman, could be a man, pick a woman, who says, I don't know what it is. There's no nice guys out there. If they're all the same,
They
because
pick the Yeah,
You
they
pick them.
can't pick the rare ones.
Right.
But
Either,
it's unconscious. You don't
yes.
know that you're doing it
Mm.
until you have to make the unconscious conscious.
So you said something before, Barbara. I just want to put a little microscope on those traumas, those things that we've dealt with, whether childhood, later in life, but things that made an impact on you, that it's in your body. It's not just in your mind. It's into the cellular level. Do you believe that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, when you have anxiety, does not your chest get tight? And when you go to school for the first day, does not your stomach have butterflies? Do you not have tension headaches?
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
Stomach issues, right?
yeah, high blood pressure. The study that Kaiser Permanente did many years ago, that's been the longest ongoing study to look at adverse childhood experiences and how they affect adults with disease processes. Children
Mm.
that are traumatized as adults have high blood pressure, cancer, disease of all sorts. So it does live in the body.
Mm.
It does.
Would you say that, and we can't, exactly prove anything here, but a lot of the disease and the physical challenges, the health challenges that we go through can many times be tied back to stuff that we dealt with earlier in life. And I'm not talking about that caused a direct correlation, but has something potentially to do with the stuff we deal with.
Well, it's everything is energy, and the energy that the body takes in that's negative, that it absorbs, that it holds on to, the beliefs that you form about yourself due to those experiences, they absolutely influence your physical health.
Mm.
There's a lot of ways, therapy does really help people, but there are people that can't get to therapy. There are people that or don't want to go to therapy. But if you pay attention to your body and what your body's doing and what your body's telling you, you can navigate a way through it to health. So in other words, you can change the body by changing your thinking, or you can change your thinking by changing your body. Meditation is a beautiful example, of how you can change the mind and the body with a meditation practice.
Mm. I've struggled, challenged by meditation over years. I've gotten to the point, Barbara, and this is like in the last year, where I could just stare at something on the wall and be transported, go to a different place or a different spot in my mind, or just check out just for a moment. And I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best feeling ever. Even just, I look forward to going home and just laying in bed. I want a little mean time and just think for a second. And then I'm in different areas and I'm getting clarity here or just some peace over there. I know we're pivoting over to meditation for a moment, but even I've been at the gym working out and I'll be on a machine or doing something and I'll stare at a bolt on the machine in front of me. And for a moment, I'm almost out of my body looking down on me doing that exercise. And I don't even know I'm doing it. I'm like, there's no fatigue or anything. I'm just doing this is great. I don't know if you've ever experienced things like that, but that's where I'm at with it. And I kind of like it.
You can get to altered states with meditation if that's what you're doing. If you're just leaving your body without being conscious that you want to do that, then that's dissociation.
No, I'm conscious. It's like,
Yeah.
right now I could stare at something over there and this all started a few years ago where I talked to a practitioner like yourself and I just stared on an object. It was one of those squishy balls on top of a head of a pencil. And that's all I did for like 5 minutes, staring. And things came up. I felt like I was 21 again. It was the coolest experience, but that was the beginning of how it worked for me. But you get clarity and peace. That's how I can, mostly describe it.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, at least, well, I will say I have clients that have said to me, well, I don't meditate. I just can't sit there. I can't do it. And it's like, well, start with a guided meditation.
Yeah.
Yes. Start
Mm,
with that kind of thing. You don't
mm,
have to start in complete silence to go to a meditation retreat.
Yep.
They have retreats around that are also helpful.
How did this all come about for you, Barbara? Learning therapy, counseling, somatics, all of this. Where'd your journey begin?
Well, I grew up in the mission field and a missionary family in South America. And, you know, I thought it was the best experience ever. And it was a really great experience. But after I had some bumps along the way and ended up in rehab for addiction, then I realized that my family characteristics met every characteristic of the documented at the research at the time in the 80s, the alcoholic home. There were all the role players. There was you know, the hero and anyway, all those roles that come out. And so I got interested in how come this Christian upbringing I had fit the alcoholic roles. So there's a lot of dysfunction. I didn't know how to, I was raised to be a submissive, passive wife in Christianity, which did not work well because uh, you can't really figure out who you are when you're told who you are. So that was part of my pathway to figuring out what
Mm.
I who I am and what I do. And then I had really good therapists along the way, and I had some really bad ones along the way. And I was sitting in treatment one time saying, "Oh, I could do better than this guy right now," because it was just not. I've been to rehab several times, and it was not one of the good ones. And so I just, after I left nursing, I got a bachelor's and then a master's and then my license, so that I could help people along the way.
Wow.
So that's how I got here.
Thank you for your honesty and transparency in your journey, and so many different things identified there, um, right down to being authentic. You were told who you were supposed to be. That really wasn't you. And I believe, and I want your feedback on that, that if we're not being who we are, it just goes against the grain. You're never going to feel comfortable, just in general. Your thoughts on that?
It is yourself in internal family systems. We call it the self energy. Um, I don't know, in Christianity, you might call it, your soul, your authentic, who you are. And you're especially teenagers are trying to figure out who they are. And they're given a rough time parents trying to make them good, responsible adults. And it's like these teenagers need room to figure out who they are, and they need some guidance and boundaries. Yes, that's all true.
Hmm.
But yeah, I got told a lot of things. So
Yeah.
finding my path through those things is taken me a lifetime, but it's been well worth it.
So, and yes, on teenagers, especially girls, young women, social media. I mean, you want to be, you should be who you are, but now everything is telling you who you could be or should be. Gets confusing, and one of my one of the statements I learned this year: comparison steals joy. So here you are comparing yourself to others, but it's taken away who you really are, your true joy. In your journey,
Yeah.
Barbara, what would you say was the biggest lesson? What's the biggest thing that stood out for you that's like, oh, okay, fundamental, whatever it might be?
But it's okay to feel.
Hmm.
It's okay to feel. If you're anxious, there's a reason you're anxious. What is it telling you? If you're depressed, the need for deep rest. What do you need to let go of? What are you sad about? I think a lot of we look for coping skills so that we don't feel.
Hmm.
I grew up in a home where anger wasn't allowed. I learned from Chip Dodd, where I spent some months in his rehab center, that anger is passion. Think of all the things in life that wouldn't have changed if nobody got angry about something. And yet anger is given such, oh, you don't be angry, don't be angry, such a bad rap. Rage, something else. But
Hmm. Hmm.
anger, anger is good. What are you angry about? And what can you change in life?
They say that anger is an emotion, but is anger really just anger? I've had this debate before. I feel that it's it's not really anger. There's other things that are connected to it. It's not
Well,
just anger in itself.
anger can cover up hurt and all kind of things. It can be a covering emotion. Yeah,
But not just
absolutely.
cover up, but just to fuel. What's fueling it? Is it just I'm angry? Well, why are you angry? And if you start peeling layers back on that, maybe you were disrespected, maybe you weren't heard, maybe you were hurt. It's not truly in itself anger, where happiness is happiness, joy is joy, sadness can be sadness. What
Yeah,
do you
there
think?
are a lot. There are a lot of faces to anger,
Mm,
but by and large, anger starts when your boundaries are violated.
okay.
So when someone has said something to you that's disrespectful, that's an emotional boundary violation for you.
Yep.
If somebody has harmed you physically in some way, that's a violation. If there's just different things that cause that boundary violation. And then you also can be angry because it's more appropriate to be angry for a man particularly than it is to be sad, or
Yep.
have guilt or fear. My God, that don't admit the fear, that kind of thing.
Well, therein lies the cover up because in terms of society, what are men told from birth as boys? Big boys don't cry. Man up. Blah 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 blah. So instead of showing emotion, it comes out as anger.
Yeah, quite
Mm,
frequently.
wow, you've had quite a journey, and you shared with us from rehab to addiction to therapists that didn't support you, and so much more. You truly, you found your passion. You walk the walk. You talk the talk. You really do.
I I have. I do. I try my best with it.
Mm. How do we connect with you? If somebody's going through some challenges, maybe they need somebody to walk the journey with them. What's the best way to connect with you?
You can call me. Or contact me through my website or give me a call. I'm licensed in Tennessee and Florida and have carry quite a few insurance panels. So if you want to check with insurance, I can do that. And then I have some groups coming up starting in January, a relationship workshop group. And I'm actually just doing a book club from the book Wired for Dating by Stan Tatkin.
What's it called?
It's called Wired for Dating. Stan Tatkin does a lot of research on relationships. He has Wired for Love, Wired for Dating, Wired for Marriage. It talks about the attachment patterns that we have, which is a whole nother subject we'll get into maybe sometime.
Oh,
You
hell yeah.
learn you, you learn your attachment patterns very young,
Mm,
and how they play out in your life
mm.
is there's science behind it.
Yes, and that sounds like a fantastic book. And it's my belief in my journey that everyone should do the five love languages if you're starting a new relationship before anything continues. Number one, like no, or go to therapy. Even couples therapy. There's no issues here, but to identify maybe those things from your past that you're ignoring, and that could show up later in the relationship.
Well, you're going into a career in a relationship, and you don't have any education for it. There's nobody told you how to do it.
No, no. Same thing with being a
Unless you,
parent. I didn't get the manual. I'm still waiting for that to show up.
that's
Mm.
true. Yeah.
Barbara, what's your website?
It's barbarajlanz.com.
And Lanz is spelled Lanz.
See. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you for today. Again, I'm going to say it. Thank you for your honesty and transparency and sharing your journey, because I really believe that we all have a story and we learn from others and their stories. And that strengthens us. We're not alone. We're all dealing with stuff. And I appreciate it. Looking forward next time we get together.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Enjoy.
you. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.